So in this video, we're going to continue where we have left off. So after you have created the child blueprints, go to the content drawer and then third person blueprints, go to store content, and in here, open the store level. And after that, right click over here, go to blueprints, and in here, select structure. And we're going to name this store characters struct. Alright, just like this. So basically a structure or a struct is a collection of different types of data that are usually related to each other and are held together for easy access. We already used a type of struct, namely the vectors, the transforms, and rotators. All of these are struct variables. So yeah, that is a simple explanation on what structs actually are. In our case, we're using a structure to store data related to the store characters. And that would be things like the name of the character, the price, the actor reference, and so on. We're going to open this up. So here we have a default variable in our structure, and we're going to try changing the name of this variable by just going over here, just select it all, delete it, and type is bot. So now to add another variable, we need to click on this button over here called the add button. So after you add a variable, we need to change the data type. We're going to change the boolean data type to name, and then we're going to change the name of this variable character name. Alright, so we're going to call this variable character name, and then add another variable. We're going to change the data type of this variable to integer and change the name to price. Once again, we need to add another variable, and we're going to change the data type of this variable to actor. Alright, so over here you have a bunch of options. So under option type, go to actor, and while your cursor is over here, you have this bunch of options over here. You need to actually select class reference over here, not the object reference. Alright, so a very simple way of differentiating whether you need an object reference or a class reference for spawning any kind of character in your level is to first determine if that specific character or object is already present in your level or not. If your character or any other object is not already present in your level, then you should always choose class reference. But if it's already present in the level, you can choose the object reference. If you choose object reference without the actual character or any other object actually in the level, it's going to create a bunch of error. Alright, so in our case, our characters are not already spawned in our level. I know that we currently have our characters in our level, but we're going to be deleting those characters very soon. And we're going to choose a class reference for that reason, so that we can dynamically spawn characters based on how many characters we have in our data table, which I'll also explain in a minute. So choose class reference over here. Right, so we have an actor class reference over here, and we're going to change the name of the variable to store characters, and we're going to add another variable, and this time we're going to change the data type to BP third person character. And as you can see over here, there's an issue in Unreal Engine. I think it's a bug where the third person character blueprint or any of the other blueprint that we have created does not show up over here. So if I were to search for the coin BP, yep, it's not showing up over here. So again, if I were to search for BP camera, yep, it does not show up over here. So this is a weird issue because sometimes it actually shows up over here. And maybe if I were to try opening up the blueprint for the third person character, now if I were to search for it, yep, now it's working. So this is an issue that you need to be aware of. Sometimes it stops working So once again, if I were to search for coin BP, now it's showing up over here, as you can see. So again, it's something to keep in mind. You might need to open the blueprint for this to show up. So anyways, type third person BP character and then choose class reference over here and then save the struct or structure, and we're going to close it. So open up the content row, and over here we're going to right click, go to miscellaneous, and over here you have an option called data table. So click it. So click on the drop down icon and select the store characters struct and then select OK. And I'm going to name this data table store characters DT for data tables. Alright, so open this up. Alright, I actually forgot. Go back to the store character, and over here I forgot to give a name to this variable. Alright, so give this variable a name game characters. Again, I'll kind of explain what all of these mean later on, but as you can see from the names, you already have an idea on what this is. We would be having two separate sets of characters. So one set of characters will be used for the store level, and another set of characters will be used for the game characters. Alright, so for the actual gameplay, we'll be using a separate set of characters. And the reason why we are not using the same characters in the store level is because of performance reasons. So from the previous video, we were already inheriting a lot of the features for our characters from the BP third person character. And the issue with that is that that character takes up a lot of performance. And when you have a bunch of characters, like 50 or 100 plus characters in our store level, it's going to cost a lot of performance. Alright, so in order to reduce the performance requirement, we are going to have a separate store characters, and we already have a separate store characters. As you can see, these characters over here, these would be the store characters. So I guess you could rename this folder as store characters, give it a hyphen, store hyphen characters. Again, fix up any redirectors. You can delete the previous folder, we don't really need it. So yeah, we have these store characters over here, and again these will be the characters that we are going to use in our game level. Alright, so once again save this structure, close it, and then go back to our data table. So in very simple terms, a data table is a type of spreadsheet in Unreal Engine where you use rows and columns to manipulate data in it. Alright, so you can have large number of data in this data table, and this can be useful in a lot of circumstances. Again, in our case, for storing character related information in our data table. Now there is something very important to keep in mind when using data tables, and that is that the data in the data tables cannot be modified during runtime. So when you're actually playing the game, you cannot dynamically modify the data within the data table. Alright, so you have to load the data from the data table onto a separate variable like an array or a set or something else. So you might be asking, what is the point of a data table, since you can't really modify the data in it, and it seems kind of useless when you could use an array instead to store data in it. Alright, so specifically a nested array would be useful in our case, but I chose data tables because data tables are more easier to quickly modify and perform changes during game development. Unlike with an array, it's very easy to quickly see all the characters, various other information like the store character, the game characters, the prices, and so on are so much easier to modify in a data table than it is to modify them in an array. And that is one major reason for me to prefer a data table. And data tables also have additional benefits. So if you were to use Microsoft Excel, you can actually export a CSV file and use that file easily within a data table. So there are various workflows like that when using data tables, but I personally would not be using any of such methods in this video tutorial series. So again, you can do further research on that on your own. But again, back over here, so you can easily change the height of each column over here. So if you find each of the columns a bit too short, you can just change it like this. So after that, we are going to click on the add button over here. So click on it, and over here down below we have a bunch of data over here that you can modify. And I forgot to mention something important about data tables. Over here we have something called row name, and this row name over here is very important because this row name over here is our primary key in our data table. And by primary key, if you used a spreadsheet program like Microsoft Excel, you already know what it means. But basically all the values within a row name must be unique, so you can't have any data that is similar to each other. So if I were to add another row over here and try giving this the same name, you can see it's creating an error over here that it's already being used as a row name in this table. So that is one thing to keep in mind. So in our case, we are just going to name the row name in numbers. And in the later part of this tutorial, when we start using the BP camera, we are going to be referencing on the row name numbers over here to identify the characters to spawn in our game level and to determine whether the character that we are currently looking at is purchased or not, and so on. Alright, so for the first value, we're going to give the row name as 0. And another thing to keep in mind is that you have to modify the row name data directly over here. Alright, but you can't really modify the rest of the data over here. So to add or modify the data in the other columns, we have to go over here down below under the row editor. So over here we have the eSpot column over here. I'm going to choose true. And again, for our first row over here, this is going to contain our first person character. And preferably we want at least one character that we can play without purchasing anything. Otherwise the player won't be able to play the game. So for the first character, that is going to be our male runner, we are going to give it away for free. And again, in the second column, for the character name, we are going to name this male runner. And for the price, we're just going to leave it at 0. Right, so this is going to be free. We want our player to actually play the game when they first download the game. And over here we have something called store characters, and over here we need to reference the characters over here. Alright, so it's going to be the male runner under the store characters. So go here, search for male runner, and then select the male runner blueprint. And for the game characters, we're going to click on the drop down box and then choose child BP male runner. And then we're going to go to the next row over here, and this time we're going to give the row name as 1. And in here we're going to leave the eSpot as false because we don't want this to be free. The character name is going to be female runner. We're going to give a price of 5. Alright, so that means you need to collect 5 coins to purchase this female runner. And then over here for our store characters, we're going to click on the drop down box and then search for female runner. Again, make sure to choose this over here, female runner, for our store characters. And for our game characters, child BP female runner. Alright, so this is going to be our female runner. Now once again, you can click on the add button over here to add another row. And then this time for our row name, we're going to give the row name as 2, and we're going to leave the eSpot as false. The character name will be cube runner. We're going to set the price as 10 coins, and then under store characters again, we're just doing the same thing. We're going to choose cube runner, and for the game characters, child BP cube runner. You can also just duplicate the row over here by clicking on this icon over here, and if you created a mistake, you can remove the row by clicking on this icon over here. And with that, we are done. Once again, you can save it. With this, we are done with this video. In the next part of this tutorial series, we're going to try getting the data from the data table and save it to an array. And then using the array, we are going to try spawning the characters to our store level. So that's it for this video. Thanks a lot for watching and see you later. Bye.